Let me tell you something strange about friendship in the modern world. We live in an age where connection has never been more accessible, where we can reach across continents with the touch of a screen, where social networks promise to bind us in webs of perpetual relationship. Yet here you are, perhaps sitting alone, wondering if there's something fundamentally wrong with you because the friends haven't materialized, because the deep connections feel elusive, because solitude has become your most honest companion. And here's the question that always lingers. What if the absence of friends isn't a flaw in your character, but rather a form of clarity about the human condition itself? You see, what we call loneliness might actually be awareness. Not the romantic kind of awareness that self-help books peddle, where everything happens for a reason, and the universe conspires to help you. No, I'm talking about something more unsettling and ultimately more liberating. The awareness that comes from living without the comfortable illusions that friendship often provides. The recognition that most human connections are elaborate performances designed to avoid confronting the fundamental solitude of existence. Albert Camus wrote about the absurd condition of human life, the strange predicament we find ourselves in when we desperately seek meaning and connection in a universe that offers neither guarantee nor explanation. Most people, when they feel this cosmic indifference pressing against them, immediately reach for distractions. They surround themselves with people, with noise, with the reassuring chatter of social belonging. But what if you're someone who can't quite manage that reach? What if you're someone who sits in the silence and actually listens to what it's telling you? There's something both terrible and beautiful about being the person who doesn't easily form friendships. Terrible because it means facing the reality that most human beings spend their entire lives trying to avoid. That we are fundamentally alone in our experience of consciousness. That no amount of sharing or caring or mutual understanding can bridge the essential gap between one mind and another. But beautiful, because it means you're living without the primary defense mechanism that keeps most people from ever encountering their own authentic existence. Think about it this way. Every friendship, every relationship, every social bond serves partly as a mirror. We look to others to reflect back to us some version of ourselves that we can live with, some confirmation that we exist in a meaningful way. We laugh at each other's jokes to create the illusion of shared understanding. We offer sympathy and support to maintain the fiction that life's difficulties can be resolved through human warmth. We build elaborate social rituals around birthdays and holidays to pretend that time has significance beyond its relentless passage. Now, this isn't to say that friendship is meaningless or that human connection is worthless, but most of what we call friendship is actually a collaborative act of mutual self-deception. Two or more people agreeing to pretend that their shared activities, their common interests, their reciprocal care somehow adds up to something that transcends the basic absurdity of existence. It's a beautiful pretense, in its way, but it's still pretense. When you struggle to form these bonds, when friendship feels forced or artificial, when you find yourself observing social interactions from the outside rather than participating naturally within them, you might be experiencing something that Camus would recognize immediately. You might be encountering the absurd directly, without the cushioning that social connection normally provides. The universe in its silence, the fundamental disconnect between human need and cosmic indifference, the strange comedy of consciousness trying to justify itself to itself. Most people, when they sense this underlying absurdity, panic. They double down on social connection. They try harder to fit in, to belong, to surround themselves with the warm bath of human recognition. They interpret their loneliness as a problem to be solved, rather than as information to be processed. They assume that the difficulty in forming friendships points to some deficit in their personality, some flaw in their social programming that needs to be debugged and corrected. But what if it's actually the opposite? What if the inability to easily form superficial connections is actually a sign of existential honesty? What if you're someone who instinctively rejects the comfortable lies that friendship often requires? What if your solitude is not a punishment, but a form of clarity? Consider this. Authentic friendship, the kind that actually enriches human existence, requires something that most people find terrifying. It requires the ability to be genuinely yourself with another person, without performance, without the careful management of image and impression that characterizes most social interaction. It requires what Camus called authenticity, the courage to live without illusions. And here's the paradox: the very quality that makes authentic friendship possible, this commitment to honest existence, is also the quality that makes casual, conventional friendship nearly impossible. When you've spent time alone with your thoughts, when you've sat in the silence of your own consciousness without immediately reaching for distractions, when you've faced the basic questions of existence without the comfortable noise of social chatter, you develop a kind of existential sensitivity. You become attuned to authenticity in a way that makes most social interaction feel hollow. You can sense when someone is performing rather than being. You can feel the weight of unspoken pretense in casual conversation. You recognize the elaborate dance that most people do to avoid saying anything that might threaten their carefully constructed social personas. This sensitivity is both a gift and a burden. It's a gift because it means you're living closer to truth than most people dare to live. You're experiencing life with fewer filters, fewer comfortable delusions. You're encountering reality in something closer to its raw form. But it's also a burden, because it makes casual friendship nearly impossible. How do you form bonds with people who are fundamentally committed to avoiding the very truths that you can't help but see? Let me tell you about Sisyphus, Camus' great metaphor for the human condition. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a mountain for eternity. Every day he would struggle to roll this massive stone to the peak, and every day, just as he reached the summit, the boulder would roll back down and he would have to begin again. The punishment was designed to be meaningless, to be absurd in its pointless repetition. But Camus makes a startling observation. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, not happy because his task has meaning, not happy because he expects eventual success, not happy because he believes the gods will eventually relent, happy because he has accepted the absurdity of his situation and found joy in the struggle itself, happy because he has stopped looking for external validation of his efforts and started finding fulfillment in the pure act of living, of pushing forward despite the apparent pointlessness. Your solitude might be your boulder, the daily experience of waking up without close friends, without the social validation that most people take for granted, without the comfortable distraction of constant human interaction. Society tells you this is a problem to be solved, a mountain to be conquered. Find friends, build a network, create connections. Push that boulder of loneliness up the mountain of social success. But what if, instead of seeing this as a punishment, you could see it as your particular form of authentic existence? What if your solitude is not a void to be filled, but a space to be inhabited? What if the absence of easy friendship is not a lack, but a clarity? What if you've been given the strange gift of experiencing life without the primary illusion that keeps most people from ever encountering their own authentic existence? This doesn't mean that you should embrace isolation as a permanent state or reject all human connection as meaningless. Camus wasn't advocating for withdrawal from the world. He was advocating for engagement without illusions. He believed in what he called revolt, the conscious decision to live fully despite the absence of cosmic meaning. Not resignation, not despair, but active engagement with reality as it actually is, rather than as we wish it were. When it comes to friendship, revolt might mean something counterintuitive. Instead of desperately trying to conform to social expectations, instead of forcing yourself into uncomfortable social situations in hopes of manufacturing connections, revolt might mean accepting your solitude as valid and valuable. It might mean being genuinely yourself in social situations, even when that authenticity makes conventional friendship difficult. It might mean preferring quality over quantity, depth over breadth, truth over comfort. The person who has no friends but maintains their authenticity might actually be living more courageously than the person who has many friends but maintains those friendships through careful self-censorship. The person who sits alone but thinks deeply might be more genuinely engaged with existence than the person who fills their calendar with social obligations but never has an authentic conversation. The person who faces their solitude without immediately reaching for distractions might be more alive than the person who surrounds themselves with people but never encounters their own consciousness. There's a strange freedom that comes with accepting your social situation as it is, rather than constantly trying to change it. When you stop seeing friendlessness as a problem to be solved, when you stop interpreting your solitude as evidence of personal failure, when you accept that you might be someone who experiences life differently than most people, something shifts. You stop expending enormous amounts of energy trying to be someone you're not. You stop performing a version of yourself designed to attract friends. You stop monitoring every social interaction for signs of rejection or acceptance. This is what Camus meant by freedom. Not the freedom to get whatever you want, but the freedom that comes from accepting reality without illusions. The freedom that emerges when you stop trying to force the universe to conform to your expectations and start engaging with the world as it actually presents itself to you. And here's something remarkable that often happens when you achieve this kind of acceptance. The quality of your human interactions begins to change. Not necessarily the quantity, but the depth and authenticity. When you're no longer desperate for friendship, when you're no longer performing a version of yourself designed to attract social connection, when you're genuinely comfortable with solitude, you become paradoxically more attractive to the kind of people with whom authentic friendship is actually possible. You see, most people can sense desperation. They can feel the neediness that underlies forced social interaction. They can detect the performance that masks authentic personality, but they can also sense authenticity when they encounter it. They can feel the presence of someone who is genuinely comfortable with themselves, who doesn't need their validation to feel complete, who offers genuine connection rather than social transaction. This doesn't mean that accepting your solitude will magically solve your social problems or flood your life with perfect friendships. The universe doesn't work that way. What it means is that you might discover something more valuable than conventional friendship: self-respect, authenticity, the ability to engage with life on your own terms rather than on society's terms. Think about the people throughout history who have made the most profound contributions to human understanding. How many of them were socially popular? How many of them had vast networks of casual friends? Some did, certainly, but many others lived in relative solitude, finding companionship in ideas, in nature, in their work, in their own consciousness. They weren't necessarily lonely in the pathological sense. They were alone in the existential sense, engaged with the fundamental questions of existence without the comfortable distraction of constant social validation. Camus himself was not a hermit. He had relationships, he engaged with the world, he was involved in political causes and literary communities. But he also spent enormous amounts of time alone, thinking, writing, confronting the basic absurdity of existence without easy consolation. His friendships, when they occurred, were based on mutual recognition of this absurdity rather than mutual avoidance of it. The difference is crucial. Most friendship is built around shared activities, common interests, mutual support in avoiding life's deeper questions. Authentic friendship, the kind that actually enriches existence, is built around shared recognition of life's fundamental mysteries. It's not friendship designed to make life easier or more comfortable. It's friendship that emerges from mutual courage in facing life's essential difficulties. When you've spent time alone with existence, when you've faced the silence of the universe without immediately reaching for social distraction, when you've developed comfort with your own consciousness, you become capable of this deeper form of connection. Not everyone is interested in or capable of this kind of friendship. Most people are too committed to their comfortable illusions, too invested in avoiding existential anxiety, too dependent on social validation to engage authentically. But occasionally, you encounter someone else who has also spent time in the wilderness of their own consciousness. Someone else who has faced the absurd without flinching. Someone else who doesn't need friendship to avoid truth, but is capable of friendship based on shared recognition of truth. These encounters are rare, But when they happen, they have a quality that makes up for their infrequency. This is what I mean when I say that having no friends might be awareness rather than flaw. You might be someone who instinctively recognizes that most social connection is elaborate avoidance behavior. You might be someone who can't quite bring yourself to participate in the mutual self-deception that conventional friendship often requires. You might be someone who needs more authenticity in human connection than most people are willing or able to provide. And that's not a failure of your social programming. That's honesty about what human connection actually requires to be meaningful. That's refusing to accept substitutes for the real thing. That's preferring truth to comfort, authenticity to popularity, depth to breadth. Consider the alternative. Consider the person who has many friends but maintains those friendships through careful management of their authentic self, who laughs at jokes they don't find funny, who agrees with opinions they don't share, who performs enthusiasm for activities they find boring, who offers support they don't genuinely feel, who receives care they don't actually want. Is this person really more connected than the person who sits alone but remains genuinely themselves? Social media has made this dynamic even more absurd. We now have entire platforms dedicated to maintaining the illusion of friendship through carefully curated performance. People present edited versions of their lives designed to attract and maintain social connections that exist primarily in digital space. They accumulate friends and followers like points in a game, measuring their social worth through metrics of engagement and response. The person who struggles with friendship in this environment might actually be responding sanely to an insane situation. They might be recognizing, perhaps unconsciously, that this entire social ecosystem is built on the very kind of pretense and performance that makes authentic connection impossible. Their failure to thrive in this environment might be evidence of their integrity rather than their inadequacy. This connects to something deeper that Camus understood about the modern condition. We live in a world that offers an overwhelming number of opportunities for distraction, for avoiding the fundamental questions of existence. We can fill our days with social media, with entertainment, with busyness, with social obligations, with the endless noise of modern life. Most people take advantage of these opportunities for avoidance. They pack their schedules and their minds so full of external stimulation that they never have to confront the silence of their own consciousness. But some people find that these distractions don't work for them. Some people discover that no amount of external stimulation can quiet the deeper questions that arise in consciousness. Some people find that social connection, when it's used primarily as distraction from existential anxiety, feels hollow and unsatisfying. These people often interpret this as personal failure, as evidence that they're broken or inadequate. But what if it's actually evidence that they're more honest than most people about what actually satisfies human consciousness? What if the person who struggles to find satisfaction in casual friendship is actually recognizing something true about the nature of human connection? What if they're responding honestly to the superficiality that characterizes most social interaction? What if their solitude is not avoidance, but engagement? Not withdrawal, but presence? Not failure, but integrity? There's a beautiful passage in Camus's novel, The Stranger, where the protagonist, Meursault, is in prison awaiting execution. He has no visitors, no friends rallying to his cause, no social support network helping him through his crisis. He is utterly alone. And yet in this solitude, he experiences a kind of clarity and peace that had eluded him when he was embedded in normal social life. He discovers that his solitude is not empty, but full, not meaningless, but rich with authentic experience. This is obviously an extreme example, and I'm not suggesting that social isolation is necessarily a path to enlightenment. But there's something in Meursault's experience that speaks to the possibility of finding genuine fulfillment in solitude. When you're not constantly managing social relationships, when you're not performing a version of yourself designed to maintain friendships, when you're not seeking external validation for your existence, you create space for a different kind of experience. You create space for genuine encounter with your own consciousness. You create opportunity for authentic thought, for real reflection, for honest assessment of your own values and desires. You create conditions under which you might discover what you actually think and feel, rather than what you think you should think and feel, in order to maintain social acceptability. This kind of self-knowledge is rare in a world that promotes constant external stimulation and social connection. Most people never get to know themselves in any deep way, because they're always embedded in social contexts that require performance and adaptation. They spend so much energy managing their social personas that they never discover their authentic personalities. The person who has no friends, who spends significant time alone, who faces the silence of their own consciousness without immediately reaching for distraction, has access to a kind of self-knowledge that is not available to people who are constantly immersed in social interaction. This doesn't make them superior to more socially connected people, but it does give them access to a different kind of experience, a different relationship with their own existence. And here's where we return to Camus' insight about revolt. The conscious decision to live fully despite the absence of cosmic meaning or guarantee. For the person without friends, revolt might mean embracing their solitude as a valid way of being in the world. It might mean refusing to apologize for their authentic personality, even when that authenticity makes social connection difficult. It might mean finding joy and meaning in their own company, in their own thoughts, in their own engagement with existence. This is not resignation or withdrawal. This is active engagement with reality as it presents itself to you. This is refusing to pretend that your situation is other than it is, but also refusing to interpret your situation as fundamentally problematic. This is finding the Sisyphean joy in pushing your particular boulder up your particular mountain, whether or not anyone else understands or approves of your struggle. Because here's something that becomes clear when you spend time alone with your own consciousness. You are enough. Not enough in the self-help sense, where positive thinking magically transforms your circumstances, but enough in the existential sense, where your consciousness, your capacity for thought and feeling and experience, constitutes a complete universe in itself. You don't need external validation to justify your existence. You don't need social connection to make your life meaningful. You don't need friendship to make your experience of consciousness valuable. This doesn't mean that friendship, when it's authentic, isn't valuable. It doesn't mean that human connection, when it's real, doesn't enrich existence. It means that your worth as a conscious being doesn't depend on your ability to attract and maintain these connections. It means that your solitude is not a void but a fullness, not an absence but a presence, not a failure but a form of success. When you understand this, something remarkable happens. You stop needing friendship in the desperate way that makes authentic friendship impossible. You stop performing versions of yourself designed to attract social connection. You start offering genuine presence instead of manufactured charm. You become someone who is genuinely comfortable with themselves, and that comfort becomes attractive to the kind of people with whom real friendship is possible. But even if authentic friendship never materializes, even if you remain primarily alone throughout your life, you've achieved something that most people never achieve. Genuine self-acceptance, authentic existence, honest engagement with reality as it presents itself to you. You've learned to find joy and meaning in your own consciousness, in your own capacity for thought and feeling and experience. You've learned what Sisyphus learned in Camus' imagination, that the struggle itself is enough to fill a human heart. That meaning doesn't have to be imposed from outside but can be discovered within the lived experience of consciousness itself. That happiness doesn't require external validation, but emerges from authentic engagement with whatever circumstances you find yourself in. And perhaps most importantly, you've learned that the absence of friends is not evidence of your inadequacy, but evidence of your honesty. Evidence that you can't quite bring yourself to participate in the elaborate pretenses that most social connection requires. Evidence that you need more authenticity in human interaction than most people are willing or able to provide. Evidence that you're living closer to truth than comfort, closer to reality than illusion, closer to authentic existence than social performance. This is not a consolation prize for failing at friendship. This is recognition of a different way of being in the world, one that has its own integrity and its own rewards. One that might actually be more courageous than the conventional path of social connection, because it requires facing the fundamental solitude of human existence without the comfortable distraction that friendship often provides. In the end, whether you have friends or don't have friends, whether you're socially connected or primarily alone, the essential task remains the same: to live authentically, to engage honestly with existence as you encounter it, to find joy and meaning in the struggle itself, rather than in external validation of that struggle. The person who achieves this in solitude might actually be more successful at the fundamental human project than the person who avoids it through constant social connection. Your friendlessness is not a flaw to be corrected, but awareness to be honored. Awareness of what authentic connection actually requires. Awareness of the pretense that characterizes most social interaction. Awareness of your own capacity for solitude, for self-reflection, for genuine encounter with your own consciousness. This awareness might be uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. It frees you from the desperate need for external validation. It allows you to engage with the world from a position of strength rather than neediness, authenticity rather than performance, truth rather than comfort. And in that freedom, in that authenticity, in that honest engagement with your own existence, you might just discover what Camus called the invincible summer that exists within the winter of human consciousness. The warmth that doesn't depend on external temperature, the light that doesn't require external illumination, the companionship that doesn't depend on other people, but emerges from genuine friendship with your own consciousness, your own capacity for thought and feeling and experience. One must imagine the friendless person happy. Not happy because their situation will change. Not happy because they expect eventual social success. Not happy because they believe their solitude serves some greater purpose. Happy because they have learned to find joy in the struggle itself, meaning in the authentic engagement with their own existence, fulfillment in the honest acceptance of reality as it presents itself to them. Happy because they have achieved what most people spend their entire lives avoiding: genuine encounter with their own consciousness, unmediated by the comfortable distractions of social performance and external validation. This is revolt in its purest form, not the desperate attempt to change circumstances, but the conscious decision to live fully within whatever circumstances you find yourself in. Not the denial of difficulty, but the transformation of difficulty into opportunity for authentic existence. Not the avoidance of solitude, but the embrace of solitude as a valid and valuable way of being in the world.